It's been a tough week. Just last week, we learned our good friend Mike Nolan had passed away. His children sent me this marvelous picture, him being carried off the field by the Air Force football team. Of course, Mike spent many of his Saturdays calling the Falcons games on radio.
That's right, Ben Martin.
That's right, Ben Martin. We heard him say it all the time. So we want to talk more about Mike's life and legacy with one of his great friends, another familiar face to 9 News viewers and sports fans all over Colorado, our good friend Ron Zappolo.
Hey, Tom, it's always good to see you.
Always good to see you.
I wish we was a different circumstance.
No,
but
we don't spend enough time together, and we think about it at times like this.
Oh, yeah, we call each other and we say we should do it, and then stuff like this, unfortunately, brings us together.
Well, I've been talking about it for a few days now. I knew Mike for 40 years. You knew him even longer.
I knew Mike a long time, and, you know, I was driving over here thinking, well, what stories could I tell that you don't know, and you know them all, that I can't tell. And I just told somebody back there, I said, well, I got to parse these stories, but what do I think of when I think of Mike? First off, I think of him driving that white Cadillac convertible all the time with a big cigar in his mouth. Am I lying or not? And so I would always go to him and say, Mike, you're driving it in the cold. Why do you do that? And he'd go, suntan, baby, suntan. And he was big in, like, Mike's idea, for those of you that didn't know a lot about Mike, Mike's idea of a workout was going to the tanning booth, all right? So we would go, and you remember this, we would have these campers up in Greeley.
Sure.
We would go to lunch, and Mike would sit in front of the camper with a cigar and one of those, and the beach chair with the something. That's just who he was.
But it's funny because you think of the relationships with Mike that he developed with players and coaches. I think so many kind words have been said about him over the past week from sports writers.
Yep.
You worked across the street from him, competing with him for a long time.
I competed with him and I worked with him.
And then you guys became
I really got to know him really well when I competed with him.
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling somebody backstage here, his 50th birthday in 1987, we were in Kansas City for a Broncos game, and he called me in my room and said, well, yeah, what are you doing? I said, nothing. He goes, it's my birthday. I said, no kidding. He goes, let's go to get some dinner and go to a movie. We went to dinner, and I can still remember, we went to Heartbreak Ridge, and it was great going to see a movie with Mike because he laughed his can off.
Yeah.
And he had a great sense of humor. He really did. He was funny. I'm looking at that picture right there, okay?
That reminds me,
yes, and that's a great picture too. I don't know if you were still at 9 at this point, but there was a memo. Kim might even remember this. And that's a great picture. That's when I left 9 to go to Fox, and you guys had all put together like a surprise little party for me down at the Chop House, and Sonny Lubick, God love him, Kobrick, Benny. It was great. But I remember this was after I'd come here. It might have been like 92 or 93. There's another great picture. I've got that picture in my office, and the reason I have it hanging up at home is Mike and Gary signed that, and they said to Ron, our biggest fan.
That sounds like the two of them,
yes,
of course.
But
Gary Cruz.
The story I was going to tell is, this was a couple years after I got here. There was a memo that came out, that, and I think it was probably mostly for the women, and it was like, please don't change your appearance without telling us first. This is very important. And so this is typical Mike. He walks in the next day. Now, his hair was as white as mine right now.
Right.
He walks in, his hair is basically jet black, okay? And he goes, hi, guys. Like, nobody would, who would say anything, right? And he got suspended for a couple days, but that was the beauty of it.
So I always tell this story. In the old building, Mike, one day, they changed the music on the show. And for years, 9 News had the exact same music. And one day, they just changed it. No one knew about it. Nolan goes stomping downstairs into Butch Montoya's office, the news director, and he goes, who changed the music? And Butch, his boss, says, I did. Mike goes, I like it.
That is typical Mike. Yeah. That is so Mike. That's awful. Unless you like it, then it's just great. And the other thing about Mike, I think, and you know this as well as I do, I think Mike loved his job. I think he loved being on TV. And Mike would have these 7 or 8 lines that he'd say all the time. He'd tell Dennis back there, you make a cup of coffee, nervous. He would always, every time I was anywhere with Mike, we'd walk into a room and he'd always look at me and say, Ron, let me go first and tell me if anybody recognizes me. That's just who he was, but I think he was an old school character.
But people knew what he loved as far as sports and being on television, and maybe not as well know how much he loved his family. And it's been interesting over these past week to catch up with his kids, you know, fully grown now, and to hear the stories and share the stories and the love.
He was very, very proud of Joe and Pete and Amy. And it's funny, he wouldn't always...
And Mark, just so you don't get in trouble.
Yeah, just so I don't get in trouble. He would brag to my wife about, you know, what band Pete was in or what Joe was doing. He was very, very proud of that. And he was also proud of his ladies' man persona,
well,
you know, that he had, and he fostered it, you know. I remember one time, and it was like in 90, maybe it was 1990, I got divorced, and he goes, "Hey, you got to get back out there, kid. You got to get back out there." I said, "Back out where?" I mean, what do you mean? He goes, "Oh, you got to get out there. Let me tell you what it's like. It's brutal out there."
Well, it's good that you had a tour guide.
Yeah, I had a guy to take me through it in Mike, you know. It was just...
Well, just so people know, because many people have asked, no services have been scheduled yet for Mike. It's expected there might be a service very soon down in Santa Fe where he passed on. And then I think sometime after the new year, his kids are going to put together something here. One of his ex-wives, Nancy, also talking about that with us. And hopefully there'll be something that people can all get together and share these stories even further. Yeah, it'd be great.
It would be good to have some closure and to talk about Mike in a way that we all feel the same about.
Yeah, we all loved him. Yeah. We all loved him very much.
We all loved him. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. It's great to see you again. It's good to have you here at 9 News for a day.
Hey, it's good to be a little deja vu sitting here with Tim over there.
I thought one thing that occurred to me, I said, you, me, and Mike have a lot in common, including at one point we all left this building.
Yes, we did. You know, I just went back real quick. I just went back to the sports office. Do you know how many nights I spent with you in that cramped little...
Those are the best.
They were the best. And you know what? You helped me through so much stuff.
Same.
I hope I helped you through one or two things. And when I walked back in there, it was kind of neat because I thought of you. And you and I spent a ton of time in there.
Small little locker room.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
You've gone on to much bigger and greater things.
I'm still working. You got it made.
Good for you.
We'll be right back.